thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Very welcome. No
Excellent.
problem.
This space right here, we've been going around your office, and it's
It's
really
pretty
cool place
It
that
is
you
really
work
cool.
at. The slope ceiling here is really
Yeah.
neat. Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit more about OpenSRS, since that's kind of what we've been discussing with everyone
Sure.
today. How about you start by telling me a little bit about you? Like, what do you do with OpenSRS?
Okay. I manage a dedicated team. They're responsible for abuse and security around the services that we provide to our customers.
Okay.
We're also responsible for corporate security, and we spend most of our time dealing with messaging abuse like spam.
Spam.
Yeah.
Bane of everyone's
That's
existence. Well, why is
Right.
spam still such a big problem?
Well, it really comes down to the, I guess, fundamental motivator for spam, which is spammers need to make money, right? They make lots of money. They continue to make a lot of money. There are a lot of vendors that are out there that fight spam
Right.
and reduce the amount of spam coming through, but that just means that the spammers are making less money.
Right.
So their motivator is to make more money, and they continue to leverage one of their biggest weapons, which is volume.
Right.
So they send massive amounts of spam in hopes that a small amount get through, and they make their money.
Okay, so what kind of volume are we talking about here exactly?
Today, more than 80% of all email sent on the internet is spam. And
Wow.
on a daily basis, we're talking about an average of 120 to 140 billion messages.
That's a lot
Yeah,
of
that-
junk on the internet.
Absolutely. that translates to 1.6 million messages per second.
Jeez.
Sent.
Well, what kind of challenges would you say ISPs have with spam?
One of the biggest challenges for ISPs is controlling outbound spam from their own environments. So if you take the difference between an ISP and a corporation, if an employee is spamming within a company, well, you know their phone extension, you know where they sit, you walk right up to their
Right.
desk and say,
Say,
hey,
"Stop."
what are you doing? Stop this, or you're out of here. So you can easily identify these employees because they're your own employees. For an ISP, it's very different because you've got hundreds of thousands of users, you've got millions of users, and you don't know who they are.
Yeah,
You have no
exactly.
control over their machines. They're home users, right?
Right.
There are many ways to obfuscate your identity by, whether it's credit card fraud, sign-ups, or whether they've compromised machines. So that's one of the biggest challenges. If they don't do this well, the most detrimental thing that can happen to an email system is they get blocked.
Right.
So people log in, they try to send an email, and guess what? You're being blocked all over the internet because you send out too much spam.
So how are you working with your resellers to kind of work around these issues?
So we've developed tools and automated systems that allow us to monitor and detect and actually control this kind of behavior from coming from our systems. We also have relationships with different ISPs, and they actually provide us with the feedback on the user so we can take that information and action against them.
That's good.
We are actually members of a group called MOG. It stands for Messaging Anti-Abuse Working Group. And these people or the members are other large ISPs and technical gurus that get together to create best practices and standards that actually help us fight messaging abuse.
That's good.
Being part of that kind of organization also allows us to stay ahead of security issues
Right.
and sort of see some of the new trends that are happening that these spammers are engaged in.
So can you tell me a little bit more about some of the future trends then?
Okay. You remember the good old days of the viruses, right? The I love you viruses that
Yes.
were malicious and just disruptive, right? Well, what's funny is that these viruses, they don't make any money, right? I mean, they're just disruptive, right? So what we're seeing now are these viruses and Trojans are changing their behavior.
Okay.
What's happening is that they're infecting your machines and you don't know that they're infected.
Right.
So they actually want your machines to stay up because they're actually contributing to spamming because it makes money.
Right.
So they don't want you to turn it off. They don't want you to find
As like
it.
a ghost machine.
You got it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when the machines stay up longer and you don't know about them, then the more money they make. Right? And these machines, today what we call them they're called bots.
Right.
So this is a big problem with spamming. Another trend that we're seeing is that signature-based and content-based detection of spam is becoming less and less effective.
Okay.
Well, we're moving towards more of a behavioral-based, historical, and reputation-based detection to identify spam.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Okay, here's a good example. How many messages do you send and receive a day?
I don't know, dozens and dozens and dozens. Yeah.
Okay. So let's say you send, let's say 50 or so. Okay?
Right.
So if I were to look at your historical trend, you'd be like sending about the same every single day.
Right,
You know,
right.
50 or so, maybe a little bit more or less, right? So let's take an example of me. I'm a spammer. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm a spammer. I don't
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically. I would never.
Okay. Yeah.
I wouldn't receive any messages.
Right.
Because my return to address is fake.
Uh-huh.
So I don't receive anything. On the sending side, though, I'll send hundreds of thousands of messages. I'll send 1 million messages if I can.
Wow.
I'll send as many until someone stops me.
Right.
Right? From a historical base, you look at my history and it'll be a brand new account, or I'll be completely dormant. Right? So if you think about the reputation compared to you,
Right.
you look like a regular user.
Exactly.
I've got a horrible reputation.
Okay, great. That was actually quite fascinating. So thank you so much for telling me more
Very
about
welcome.
that.
You're very welcome.